The giant space station floated in the darkness like a metal moon. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its ports. Inside the main hall, thousands of alien beings sat in curved rows of seats. Their voices filled the air with strange sounds and languages. Captain Lee Hunwoo walked slowly down the center aisle. His blue Earth uniform looked plain next to the bright colors and strange shapes of the alien delegates. He was the only human in the huge room. Every eye followed him as he made his way to the small section marked Earth Terra. The station belonged to the Galactic Council. For 40 years, this group had controlled most of the galaxy. They made the laws. They decided who could trade and who could not. They said which planets were safe and which were dangerous. Hyunwoo sat down in his single chair. Around him, representatives from the Zilithian Empire filled an entire section with their tall, gray bodies and black eyes. The hegemony delegates looked like giant insects with 4 arms each. The Cosmic Federation sent beings that seemed to be made of living crystal. A deep voice boomed across the hall. The emergency session will now begin. The council leader was a massive creature that looked like a walking tree. Its bark-like skin was dark brown, and glowing blue sap moved through visible veins. We are here today to discuss the human problem. Hyunwoo felt his heart beat faster. The human problem? What did that mean? Admiral Vextar of the Zilithian Empire stood up. His long arms moved as he spoke. Fellow council members, we have disturbing news about the humans. Our scouts have found secret military bases beyond the outer rim. The humans are building weapons in violation of our agreements. The hall erupted in angry voices. Some aliens hissed. Others made clicking sounds. A few roared in deep, threatening tones. Hyunwoo jumped to his feet. That's not true. We have no secret bases. Our military follows all council rules. Vextar smiled, showing sharp white teeth. Of course they deny it. Here is the proof. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed grainy images of what looked like construction sites in space. The images were not clear, but they seemed to show large metal structures being built. These photos were taken last month, Vextar continued. The humans are clearly building something they don't want us to see. Hyunwoo stared at the images. He had never seen these places before. Were they real? Were they fake? He had no way to know. Even if these images are real, they could be anything. Mining stations, research labs, civilian projects. Civilian projects that require military-grade shielding? Vextar laughed. Civilian projects that are hidden from all council oversight? I think not. The council leader raised one massive branch-like arm. The evidence seems clear. The question now is what we do about it. A delegate from the Cosmic Federation spoke. Her crystal body rang like a bell when she moved. The humans have always been difficult. They ask too many questions. They want to change our ancient ways. Perhaps it is time to solve this problem permanently. More voices joined in. Yes, the humans are trouble. They advance too quickly. They don't know their place. Something must be done. Hyunwoo felt sick. This was not a trial. It was not even a real investigation. The council had already decided what they wanted to do. They were just looking for an excuse. The council leader called for quiet. We will now vote. The question is simple. Should the humans be given an ultimatum to surrender their military fleet, or should we take immediate action? I call for the ultimatum, Vextar said. Give them 72 hours to surrender all ships larger than Corvette class. If they refuse, we destroy them. The voting began. Each section of the hall lit up with either green or red light. Green meant yes to the ultimatum. Red meant no. Hyunwoo watched in horror as section after section glowed green. The Zilithians voted green. The hegemony voted green. The Cosmic Federation voted green. Even some of the smaller species that had always been friendly to humans voted green. Only one small section in the back corner voted red. The Peaceful Alliance, a group of species that opposed all violence, had voted to protect humanity, but they were only 12 votes out of hundreds. The council leader announced the results. The vote is 847 in favor, 12 against. The humans have 72 hours to surrender their fleet, or face the combined might of the Galactic Council. The hall erupted in cheers and alien celebration sounds. Hyunwoo stood alone in the noise, his hands shaking. In 3 days, every human ship would have to be given up, or the entire species would be destroyed. He pulled out his communicator and typed a coded message. The message was short, but would change everything. Protocol Omega. The hidden cards must be revealed. The message traveled faster than light through space communication networks. It reached Earth in minutes. Deep underground beneath the Swiss Alps, Admiral Park Ji-ho sat in a command center that few humans knew existed. Computer screens covered the walls. Military officers worked at dozens of stations. This was Earth's most secret facility. Park Ji-ho was 70 years old. His hair was gray and his face showed the lines of someone who had carried heavy burdens for many years. When Hyunwoo's message appeared on his screen, he stared at it for a long time. "Sir?" asked his aide, Lieutenant Kim Min-soo. "What are your orders?" Park Ji-ho opened a drawer in his desk. Inside was a sealed envelope marked with the highest security classifications. He had hoped never to open it. For 26 years it had waited in that drawer. He broke the seal and read the ancient orders inside. The paper was signed by leaders, who were now dead. The plan they had made was desperate and dangerous, but it might be humanity's only hope. "Send the activation signal," Park Ji-ho said quietly. "Wake up our sleeping giant." "Sir?" Min-soo looked confused. "What sleeping giant?" Park Ji-ho looked at the young officer. Soon, Min-soo would understand. Soon, the entire galaxy would understand. Humanity had been preparing for this day for nearly 50 years. "Contact all department heads," Park Ji-ho ordered. "Emergency meeting in 10 minutes. Tell them to bring the Phantom Project files." As the Admiral stood up from his desk, he felt the weight of what was coming. In 72 hours, the galaxy would learn that humans were not as weak as they seemed. They would learn that sometimes the prey has been planning all along to become the hunter. Outside, normal life continued on Earth. People went to work, children played in parks, and families had dinner together. None of them knew that their planet had just been sentenced to destruction. But far away in the cold darkness of space, something ancient and terrible was beginning to wake up. 46 years earlier, Earth looked very different. The year was 2341, and humanity had just learned they were not alone in the universe. Giant alien ships had arrived peacefully, bringing news of the Galactic Council and thousands of worlds, full of intelligent life. Dr. Kim So-young stood in her laboratory at Seoul University, staring at data that made her feel sick. She was 32 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes from working too many late nights. For 6 months, she had been studying the historical records that the aliens had shared with Earth. The records told the stories of many species that had joined the Galactic Council over thousands of years. At first, So-young had been excited to read about all these different civilizations, but the more she read, the more worried she became. Every species that joined the Council went through the same pattern. First, they were welcomed as junior members. They were given basic technology and allowed to trade with a few nearby worlds. The Council helped them build their first space colonies and taught them about galactic law. For about 50 years, everything seemed wonderful. The new species would grow and learn. Their population would spread to new planets. They would become more advanced and more confident. Then came what the Council called a compliance assessment. The Council would examine the new species to see if they were ready for full membership. They would look at their military strength, their political systems, and their cultural values. Most species failed this test. But here was the strange part. The species that failed the assessment didn't just lose their chance at full membership. They disappeared completely from all records. Their planets were listed as uninhabited in the Council database. Their history was erased as if they had never existed. So-young had found evidence of at least 30 species that had vanished this way, 30 entire civilizations gone without a trace. She picked up her phone and called General Choi Dong-min at Earth Defense Command. Dong-min was her old friend from university. He was one of the few people she trusted completely. "General, I need to see you immediately," she said. "I've found something terrible." 2 hours later, they met in a secure room deep inside the Defense Command building. So Young spread her papers across the table. Charts and graphs showed the pattern she had discovered. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a timeline. The Kalari joined the Council in 2156. They had their compliance assessment in 2198. After that, nothing. No more records, no more contact, nothing. Dongmin studied the charts. He was a big man with kind eyes, but his face was serious now. Maybe they just left the Council. Maybe they decided they didn't want to be members anymore. "That's what I thought at first," So Young replied. "But look at this." She showed him stellar maps from different time periods. These are the Kalari homeworlds. In 2198, they had a population of 12 billion people. In 21999, the planets are listed as empty. Not abandoned, empty, as if no one had ever lived there. Dongmin felt cold. "You think the Council killed them?" "I think the Council destroyed them completely," So Young said. "And I think it happens to every species that gets too strong or too independent. The compliance assessment isn't really a test. It's an excuse to eliminate potential rivals." They spent the next 4 hours going through all the data. The pattern was always the same. Species would join, grow stronger for about 50 years, then vanish after their assessment. "How long has Earth been a Council member?" Dongmin asked. 4 years, So Young answered. "Which means we have about 46 years to prepare for what's coming." Dongmin leaned back in his chair. "Prepare how? We can't fight the entire Galactic Council. They have thousands of ships and weapons we don't understand." "No, we can't fight them directly," So Young agreed. "But maybe we don't have to. What if we could make them think we're weaker than we really are? What if we could build a secret defense that they never see coming?" The next week, they presented their findings to Earth's highest leaders in a meeting so secret that no records were kept. Presidents, prime ministers, and military commanders from around the world gathered to hear the terrible truth. The room was quiet, as So Young explained what happened to species that failed their compliance assessment. When she finished, nobody spoke for a long time. Finally, the president of the United Earth Council stood up. "What do you recommend we do?" General Dongmin had prepared for this question. "We propose the Phantom Project. We build a secret military force that the Council never learns about. When our assessment comes, we'll appear to fail just like all the others. But when they come to destroy us, we'll be ready." "Where would we build this secret force?" asked the Chinese premier. "The Council watches everything we do." "The outer solar system," Dongmin replied. "There are thousands of asteroids out there. We could hollow out a large one and build inside it. The Council's sensors would just see another rock floating in space." The discussions went on for 3 days. Some leaders thought the plan was impossible. Others said it was too expensive. A few argued that the Council might be peaceful after all, but in the end, the evidence was too strong to ignore. 30 species had vanished. Earth would probably be next unless they acted. The Phantom Project was approved with the highest security classification possible. Only a few hundred people in the entire world would know about it. The project would take decades to complete and would require enormous sacrifice. Commander Yoon Jae-sung was chosen to lead the construction. He was 42 years old, married with 2 young children. He was also the best military engineer on Earth. "You understand what we're asking," General Dongmin told him. "You and your crew will have to live in secret for 20 or 30 years. Your families will be told you died in a classified mission. You'll have no contact with Earth until the project is complete." Jae-sung looked at photos of his wife and children on his desk. His daughter was only 5 years old. His son was 7. He would miss their entire childhood. "How many people will we need?" he asked. 50,000, Dongmin replied. "Engineers, construction workers, soldiers, scientists. All volunteers. All willing to give up their old lives to save humanity." Jae-sung nodded slowly. "When do we start?" "Next month. We've found the perfect asteroid. It's big enough to hollow out and far enough from Earth that the Council won't notice our activities." 6 weeks later, the first transport ships headed for the asteroid that would become humanity's greatest secret. Officially, they were listed as a deep space mining expedition that had been lost in an accident. 50,000 people died on paper that day. Their families grieved for them. Their friends mourned their loss. But in reality, they had begun the most important construction project in human history. For the next 26 years, they would work in complete isolation. They would build weapons and ships that didn't officially exist. They would prepare for a war that Earth's government would never acknowledge, and they would wait for the day when the Galactic Council came to destroy humanity, only to discover that their prey had become the hunter. The 72 hours had passed like a bad dream. Earth's official response to the Council's ultimatum had been exactly what everyone expected. They surrendered their old, outdated ships, but kept their main defense fleet. It was an act of defiance that everyone knew would bring war. Now the enemy had arrived. Space itself seemed to tear apart at the edge of the solar system. Bright flashes of light appeared as thousands of alien warships dropped out of hyperspace. The invasion fleet was enormous. Over 3,000 vessels from 17 different species, all united in their desire to destroy humanity. Fleet Admiral Zethkran stood on the bridge of his flagship, the World Breaker. He was a member of the hegemony, and his insect-like body towered over his crew. His forearms moved constantly as he studied the tactical displays. This would be the largest military operation in galactic history. The World Breaker was a dreadnought, class vessel, 800 meters long and armed with weapons that could crack planets. Around it, the rest of the hegemony fleet took up formation: 200 heavy cruisers, 500 destroyers, and 1,000 smaller ships. The Zilithian Empire had brought an even larger force. Admiral Vextar's ships were sleek and fast, designed for hit-and-run attacks. The Cosmic Federation contributed their massive carrier ships, each one launching thousands of fighter craft. "Report," Zethkran ordered his intelligence officer. "Sir, we detect the human fleet moving to intercept us. Their numbers are smaller than expected." Zethkran's compound eyes glittered with amusement. "How small?" 89 ships, sir. Led by their battleship Soul's Pride. The bridge crew made clicking sounds that served as laughter for their species. 89 ships against 3,000. This would not be a battle. It would be an execution. Admiral Kang Min-ho sat in the command chair of the Soul's Pride and tried not to show his fear. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. They all knew they were probably going to die today, but they would die fighting. The human fleet was everything Earth had built in 40 years of space travel. 89 ships, from the powerful battleship Soul's Pride down to small corvettes with crews of only 50 people. They were outnumbered more than 30 to 1. "Admiral," called his communications officer, Lieutenant Park Soo-jin, "we're receiving a transmission from the enemy fleet." "Put it through." Admiral Vextar's face appeared on the main screen. His gray skin and black eyes showed no emotion. "Humans, you have made a grave mistake. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. Continue to resist, and we will destroy your entire species slowly." Minho stood up from his chair. "Admiral Vextar, you came to our home uninvited. You threatened our families. If you want to destroy us, you'll have to work for it." Vextar's mouth stretched into what might have been a smile. "So be it. You have chosen extinction." The transmission ended and both fleets began moving toward each other. The distance between them was vast. It would take hours for them to reach firing range. But everyone knew how this would end. On Earth, billions of people watched the news broadcasts in fear. The alien fleet was so large that it could be seen with telescopes from the ground. It looked like a cloud of angry stars moving toward their world. But in the underground command center, Admiral Park Ji-ho was surprisingly calm. He sat at his desk, watching reports from the approaching battle. His aide, Lieutenant Kim Min-soo, stood nearby. "Sir," Min-soo said quietly, "shouldn't we evacuate the government, the civilian population?" Park Ji-ho smiled for the first time in days. "Where would they go, Lieutenant? This is our home. This is where we make our stand." "But sir, the odds." "The odds," Park Ji-ho interrupted, "are not what they appear to be." He opened his desk drawer and pulled out an old communication device. It had been waiting there for 26 years, untouched and unused. He pressed a single button. Far away in the asteroid belt, alarm bells began ringing inside humanity's greatest secret. The asteroid looked like any other piece of space rock from the outside, but inside, it had been transformed into the most advanced shipyard in the solar system. Commander Yoon Jae-sung was now 68 years old. His hair was white, and his face showed the years of exile from Earth. But his eyes were bright and alert as he received the signal he had waited decades to see. "All stations, this is the commander," he announced over the facility's communication system. "Protocol Omega is now active. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Throughout the asteroid facility, 50,000 people who had been dead to the world for 26 years began their final preparations. The massive doors that had been sealed for decades started to open. Launch bays that had never been used came online. Weapon systems that had been tested in secret powered up for the first time. The Indomitable had been built in absolute secrecy over 2 decades. It was 8 kilometers long, 10 times larger than any ship in Earth's official fleet. Its hull was covered with armor that could withstand planet-killing weapons. Its weapons could destroy entire battle groups. But the Supercarrier was not alone. Hidden shipyards throughout the outer solar system began releasing their secrets. Jupiter's moons had concealed heavy battleships. Saturn's rings hid entire squadrons of destroyers. Even tiny Pluto had been turned into a weapons production facility. Captain Han Soo-jin stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and felt the weight of history. She had been born in the asteroid facility, one of the few children raised in complete secrecy. Her entire life had been preparation for this moment. "Ma'am," called her sensor officer, "the Earth fleet is engaging the enemy." On the main screen, they could see the battle beginning. The human ships were fighting bravely, but they were being overwhelmed. The Soul's Pride was taking heavy damage. Several smaller ships had already been destroyed. "How long until we reach the battle?" Soo-jin asked. 47 minutes at maximum speed," replied her navigation officer. "Then we'd better hurry," she said. "Open a channel to all ships in the hidden fleet." Thousands of ships throughout the solar system received her transmission. Battleships that had been built in secret. Carriers full of advanced fighters. Destroyers with weapons that the Galactic Council had never seen before. "This is Captain Han Soo-jin of the Earth Defense Force ship Indomitable," she announced. "For 26 years we have waited in the darkness. We have sacrificed our lives, our families, and our freedom to protect humanity. Today we emerge from the shadows. Today the galaxy learns what happens when you threaten Earth." Back in the main battle, Admiral Minho watched his fleet being destroyed. Half his ships were gone, and the rest were badly damaged. The alien fleet had barely been scratched. Captain Lee Hyun-woo, now aboard the command ship Busan, sent one final coded message to Earth. "All stations, this is Shepard. The flock is coming home." Admiral Vextar saw the message intercepted by his intelligence. "Teams. Shepard? Flock? What does this mean?" His intelligence officer studied the transmission. "Unknown, sir. It appears to be some kind of code." "No matter," Vextar said. "In 10 minutes we will be in range to destroy their remaining ships. Then we can begin bombarding their planet." But in the depths of space, something impossible was happening. Space itself began to bend and twist as hundreds of hyperspace portals opened at once. What emerged from those portals would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Admiral Vextar was enjoying the battle. The human fleet was almost destroyed. Only 30 of their 89 ships were still fighting, and most of those were badly damaged. The Soul's Pride was on fire, its hull cracked in 3 places. "Sir," called his sensor officer, "I'm detecting some kind of spatial distortion behind our fleet." "Probably just solar interference," Vextar replied, without looking up from his tactical display. "How long until we can begin bombing Earth?" 15 minutes, sir. The human fleet will be completely destroyed by then." Vextar smiled. This had been easier than expected. The humans had fought bravely, but bravery meant nothing against superior numbers and technology. Soon their planet would be nothing but radioactive dust. Then space exploded, The hyperspace portal that opened behind the galactic fleet was enormous, larger than any ship that had ever been built. Light poured out of it like liquid fire. The portal stretched for kilometers, and through it came something that should not have existed. The Indomitable emerged from hyperspace like a metal mountain. 8 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide, it dwarfed every ship in both fleets. Its black hull was covered with weapons that glowed with their own inner light. Launch bays along its sides opened like the mouths of sleeping giants. But the Baynor Supercarrier was not alone. Portal after portal opened throughout the battle zone. Ships poured out of them, hundreds, then thousands. Sleek destroyers with hulls that seemed to absorb light. Heavy battleships covered in armor plates that looked like dragon scales. Carrier ships that launched clouds of fighters like angry swarms of insects. Fleet Admiral Zethkran stared at his tactical display in horror. The numbers kept climbing. 1,000 human ships. 1,500. 2,000. 2,500. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Where did they come from?" His intelligence officer was shaking. "Sir, we count 2,847 enemy vessels. They match our numbers." Captain Han Soo-jin stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and felt 26 years of preparation come to an end. Around her, the crew worked with calm efficiency. These people had trained for this moment their entire adult lives. "Launch all fighter wings," she ordered. The supercarrier's launch bays opened like flowers blooming. Fighter craft poured out in waves, not dozens or hundreds, but thousands. 10,000 small ships filled space around the Indomitable, each one more advanced than anything the Galactic Council had ever built. "Main batteries, target the enemy flagship," Soo-jin commanded. The Indomitable's primary weapons were coherent energy beams that drew power from the ship's fusion reactors. When they fired, space itself seemed to tear. The beams struck Fleet Admiral Zethkran's Worldbreaker and sliced through its armor like hot knives through paper. The massive alien dreadnought, which had been designed to destroy planets, broke in half under the assault. Zethkran had just enough time to scream before his ship exploded in a ball of nuclear fire. Throughout the galactic fleet, panic spread like a disease. These human ships were using technology that should not exist. Their fighters moved faster than interceptors. Their weapons ignored energy shields. Their defensive systems adapted to enemy fire in real time. Admiral Vextar tried to rally his forces. "All ships, concentrate fire on the large human vessel. Destroy their supercarrier." 200 Zilithian ships turned their weapons on the Indomitable. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and nuclear missiles struck its hull, but the supercarrier's shields absorbed the attack like a sponge absorbing water. Counter-battery fire from its secondary weapons destroyed half the attacking ships in seconds. Lieutenant Commander Lee Da-yoon sat at the communication station on the Indomitable's bridge. She was 35 years old, born and raised in the Yi secret facility. Her parents had been among the original 50,000 volunteers who gave up their lives to build humanity's hidden fleet. "Captain," she said, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 enemy ships." "Ignore them," Soo-jin replied coldly. "They came here to commit genocide. They can face the consequences." Da-eun opened a channel to broadcast on all frequencies. Her voice reached every ship in both fleets, and through hyperspace communication networks it reached the Galactic Council itself. "This is the Earth Defense Force," she announced. "You came to our home uninvited. You threatened our families. You assumed we were weak because we chose not to show our strength. Today you learn the price of that assumption." The tide of battle had completely reversed. Ships that had been confidently advancing toward Earth were now fleeing in panic as human vessels demonstrated impossible capabilities. Quantum torpedoes that passed through shields as if they didn't exist. Fighters that could outrun destroyers. Defensive systems that learned from each attack and became stronger. The Cosmic Federation's crystal ships tried to retreat, but human destroyers cut off their escape routes. The hegemony's remaining vessels formed defensive formations, but human battleships broke through them like they were made of paper. Admiral Min-ho watched from the damaged bridge of the Soul's Pride as the alien fleet that had come to destroy His species was itself being destroyed. Half his crew was dead or wounded, but those who remained were cheering. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we're receiving a message from the Indomitable." Captain Sujin's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. "Admiral Minho, this is Captain Sujin. Please pull your ships back to a safe distance. We'll handle things from here." "Captain, where did you come from?" Minho asked in amazement. "These ships, this technology, how is any of this possible?" Sujin smiled sadly. "We've been preparing for this day for 26 years, sir. 50,000 people gave up their lives, their families, their entire existence to build this fleet. We are the children and grandchildren of those volunteers. We are humanity's hidden strength. The battle continued for 3 more hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The galactic fleet that had come to destroy humanity was itself being systematically destroyed. Of the 3,000 ships that had arrived, fewer than 800 managed to escape back into hyperspace. On worlds throughout the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The humans, the weak, primitive humans, had defeated the combined might of 17 species. They had technology that matched or exceeded anything the Council possessed. They had been hiding their true strength for decades. The political implications were staggering. If humans could build such a fleet in secret, what else were they hiding? If they could defeat this invasion force, what would stop them from conquering other worlds? But the biggest shock came when Captain Sujin sent a message directly to the Galactic Council station where this had all begun. "Council leaders," she said, her voice carrying across light years of space, "you have learned today that humanity is not as weak as you believed, but we are not conquerors. We are protectors. We did not build this fleet to destroy others. We built it to defend ourselves and others like us." The message continued. "We know about the 30 species that disappeared after their compliance assessments. We know about the pattern of destruction that follows when younger civilizations become too strong. Today, that pattern ends. We offer you a choice. Recognize humanity as an equal partner in galactic affairs, with the same rights and privileges as any other species, or learn that today's demonstration was merely us being polite. The choice is yours." As the last alien ships fled the solar system, leaving behind the wreckage of over 2,000 vessels, the galaxy faced a new reality. Humanity had revealed its hand, and that hand was far stronger than anyone had imagined. The balance of power had shifted in a single day. The question now was what humanity would do with its newfound strength. 3 days after the battle, the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. The news networks of 100 worlds showed the same footage over and over. The moment when humanity's hidden fleet appeared and destroyed the galactic invasion force, the political earthquake had already begun. On the council station, emergency sessions were being held around the clock. Species that had supported the invasion were now scrambling to distance themselves from the decision. Trade delegations were rushing to Earth with offers of friendship and cooperation. The Zilithian Empire, which had started this entire crisis, found itself completely isolated. Admiral Vextar had survived the battle, but his government was already talking about removing him from command. No one wanted to be associated with the failed invasion anymore. Admiral Park Ji-ho stood in the observation deck of the Indomitable, looking out at the massive ship's hull stretching into the distance. At 70 years old, he had lived to see humanity's greatest triumph. But the cost had been enormous. Commander Yoon Jae-sung stood beside him. After 26 years in exile, the old engineer was finally free to return to Earth. His hair was completely white now, and his face showed the weight of decades spent in secret. "Do you think it was worth it?" Ji-ho asked quietly. Jae-sung was quiet for a long moment. 50,000 people gave up their lives for this project. They missed weddings, funerals, the birth of grandchildren. My own daughter grew up thinking, I was dead. Was saving humanity worth that sacrifice? He paused. I honestly don't know. The two men watched as Earth grew larger in the view screen. It looked peaceful and blue with white clouds swirling over the continents. It was hard to believe that 3 days ago it had almost been destroyed. The Council wants to negotiate, Jiho said. They're sending a delegation to discuss new treaties. What will we ask for? Jae-sung wondered. Equality, Jiho replied. The right to develop our technology without interference. The right to explore and colonize new worlds. The right to defend ourselves and our allies. And if they refuse? Jiho smiled grimly. Then they'll learn that the Indomitable has sister ships. Lots of them. Captain Han Soo-jin was preparing for the most important speech of her life. In 1 hour, she would address the Galactic Council directly from the bridge of the Indomitable. The entire galaxy would be watching. She had been chosen to speak because she represented something unique, a generation of humans who had been born and raised in secret, who had sacrificed everything for their species' survival. Her words would carry the weight of 26 years of hidden sacrifice. Lieutenant Commander Lee Da-eun approached with the final speech draft. Captain, the communication networks are ready. We estimate the audience at over 400 billion beings across the galaxy. Soo-jin took the paper but didn't look at it. She had already decided to speak from her heart rather than from a prepared text. The broadcast began exactly on schedule. Soo-jin sat in the captain's chair, wearing her simple, blue uniform. Behind her, the bridge of the Indomitable bustled with quiet activity. People of the galaxy, she began. My name is Captain Han Soo-jin of the Earth Defense Force. 3 days ago, you witnessed the end of an era. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council has controlled the destiny of younger species through fear and intimidation. That era is now over. She paused, allowing her words to be translated into hundreds of languages. We did not reveal our strength to dominate you. We revealed it to ensure that no species ever again faces extinction, simply for being different. We know about the 30 civilizations that disappeared after their compliance assessments. We know about the pattern of destruction that has repeated itself for millennia. Today, we break that pattern. On worlds throughout the galaxy, beings watched in fascination as this young human woman calmly announced the end of the old order. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us, if we choose to share it as equals. Humanity offers a new way forward. We propose the Terra Accords, a new treaty that guarantees the rights of all species to develop their own technology, explore their own destiny, and defend their own worlds. She stood up from her chair and moved closer to the camera. But make no mistake, we will defend these principles with the same determination we showed 3 days ago. Any species that attempts to destroy another will face the full might of Earth's fleet. We are not conquerors, but we are also not victims. We are guardians. The speech lasted 20 minutes and would be remembered as the moment when galactic politics changed forever. When it ended, Soo-jin felt exhausted. She had just declared humanity's intention to reshape the galaxy. On Earth, Commander Yoon Jae-sung finally returned home after 26 years. The house where he had once lived with his family was empty now. His wife had died 5 years earlier, still believing her husband was dead. But his daughter, Dr. Yoon Mi-young, was waiting for him at the spaceport. Mi-young was now 31 years old, a leading xenobiologist who had spent her career studying alien life forms. She had grown up thinking her father was a hero who died in space. Learning that he had actually been alive all these years was difficult to process. I'm proud of what you did, she told him as they embraced. But I'm also angry that you had to do it. You missed my entire childhood, my wedding, Mom's funeral. Was saving humanity worth losing your family? Jae-sung held his daughter tightly. I don't know, he said honestly. I hope so. I hope your children will live in a galaxy where they never have to make the choice I made. The Terra Accords were signed 6 months later on the neutral world of Kepler Prime. Representatives from over 200 species attended the ceremony. The Accords established new rules for galactic civilization, rules that protected the rights of younger species and limited the power of the Council. Not everyone was happy with the changes. The Zilithian Empire refused to sign the Accords and withdrew from galactic politics entirely. Several other species complained that humans were imposing their values on the rest of the galaxy, but the majority of civilizations welcomed the new order. For too long, they had lived in fear of the Council's compliance assessments. Now they could develop their technology and explore space without worry. Captain Lee Hyun-woo, promoted to admiral after the battle, delivered the closing speech at the signing ceremony. "We didn't fight to become the galaxy's rulers," he said. "We fought to ensure that no one could be a ruler over others. The galaxy belongs to all of us. It's time we started acting like it." 5 years later, the first integrated colony world opened for settlement. Humans, aliens, and dozens of other species worked together to build a new kind of civilization. Children from different worlds played together in the streets. Scientists from different species collaborated on research projects. Traders from across the galaxy came to do business in an atmosphere of mutual respect. Admiral Park Ji-ho, now retired, visited the colony with his granddaughter. She was 7 years old and had never known a galaxy where humans were considered weak or inferior. "Grandpa," she asked, "why did the aliens want to hurt us?" Ji-ho thought about how to explain fear, prejudice, and the need for power to a young child. "Sometimes," he said, "people are afraid of things they don't understand. And sometimes, when people have power for a long time, they don't want to share it with others. But we taught them that the galaxy is big enough for everyone." "Will they try to hurt us again?" she asked. Ji-ho looked up at the sky, where human and alien ships patrolled, together as partners rather than enemies. "I don't think so," he said. "But if they do, we'll be ready." The transformation of galactic civilization took decades, but it was real. The old system of fear and dominance gave way to cooperation and mutual respect. Younger species were no longer terrorized by compliance assessments. Trade flourished between worlds that had never interacted before, and at the heart of it all was humanity's hidden fleet, no longer hidden but serving as guardians of the new order. The Indomitable and her sister ships patrolled the galaxy, ensuring that no species would ever again face extinction for the crime of becoming too strong. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson, that sometimes the prey becomes the hunter, and that strength used wisely can create peace rather than war. Humanity had emerged from the shadows not as conquerors, but as the protectors of a new and better future for all intelligent life. In the end, 50,000 people who had sacrificed their lives to live in secret had given the galaxy something it had never had before: hope that different species could share the stars as equals rather than as masters and slaves.